that's all. 602-977-1900. And always online at lernerandrowe.com. Now time for Calling All Sports with Rock and Manooch with Jimmy B on Fox Sports 910.
Hey, everybody, welcome back. Second hour. We continue all the way to 4 o'clock. We're hanging out today, Casino, Arizona, the CAC Sportsbook, where we broadcast the show always on Monday. We're going to turn our attention. Yes, it is Game 7 tonight in the National Hockey League Stanley Cup Finals. But the story that this particular writer broke, Craig Morgan from PHNX, is the story that we are going to discuss right now. And you can follow Craig on Twitter or X at Craig S. Morgan. Craig, welcome. All I can tell you is terrific reporting, my friend. And how did this all break down for you? Were you able to uncover that the land auction had been canceled?
Well, I had a source reach out to me, and that's the way these things usually go. But obviously, the news broke shortly after I put it out. The land department itself sent out a release announcing that it had canceled the auction, which was, of course, just another point of drama in this long-running drama in Arizona. It's just amazing that around every corner comes just another crazy piece of news regarding the Coyotes.
Was the source from the land trust or from the Yotes? I mean, obviously they had lured him. Where'd that come from?
He's not going to tell you.
I'm just saying.
I'm not going to tell you my source.
Craig, when you broke this, Friday, Jackson and I were doing this show and Shoes back there, and right as the opening of the show's coming on, Shoes back there telling, hey, look, the land auction's canceled, and that's you just reported that. So we just kind of, as we're talking about the show opening up, we just kind of were getting into it. My first question is, I saw the release from the Coyotes. Has anybody had a chance to reach out to Meruelo, anybody specifically with the Yotes at this particular point in time?
No, everything is coming through their media relations department at this point, and I was told that there would be no further comment beyond the release. I mean, we saw what was in the release. The release, it was emotional. Obviously, they were pretty angry. I didn't necessarily think that was the best way to go when you're talking about stakeholders that you're going to need if you want to get this done to react that way. But also noticeably absent in that release was any mention of them staying committed to keeping hockey in Arizona. So we'll have to wait and see what comes after this latest news.
Yeah, you're right, Craig. It was as Chris read it over the air, Schubert over the air, it's like very open-ended. The threat, which to your point, last thing you want to do to the Arizona State Land Trust, that our attorneys will be all over this. But here's my question. Where was your real estate attorney prior to, as you're getting ready for this Thursday's bid, in reference to making sure that all the T's are crossed, all the I's are dotted, and the period at the end of the sentence are in place, because that's how they sell land, the State Land Trust and the feds?
Well, here's the thing that I think is a little bit convoluted. If you go and look on the City of Phoenix's site under zoning, the language is, I would call it unclear. I guess I would say that about all legal language, but it's particularly unclear about what is allowed on this site. The thing that I would note is that, the Coyotes talked about pursuing this option 1 month after the Tempe vote failed. So if you're going to do that 1 month after the Tempe vote failed, well, you better make damn sure that you can actually build an arena on this particular plot of land. Now, I think it was the Arizona Republic that reported it first in December that the City of Phoenix was saying, no, you can't do this sort of thing. I'm not sure if the Coyotes thought they could challenge that legally, but we've been reporting also for months and talking about on our shows, I'm sure you've seen, that zoning might be an issue. And sure enough, it is an issue. I think what might have happened with the Coyotes here, guys, is once they found that out, they probably looked at the timeline. I was told by an attorney familiar with zoning that it takes 8 to 10 months to acquire a special use permit. So if you're learning this in the winter and you've got Gary Bettman in your saying, we need to know by the end of the season whether you have a real option, you don't have the time at that point to go get the permit. So maybe Alex Meruelo was thinking, I'll go in the auction and then deal with the permit afterward. I don't know that for certain yet, but that could have been how this played out. It's a very risky proposition, of course, because you're counting on getting the permit from the City of Phoenix. And there's no guarantee of that. And we certainly have, we've seen the language from the city of Phoenix when it comes to doing the Coyotes any favors recently. So it was a big gamble if that's the way it played out.
Greg Morgan is our guest on the Right Toyota guest line. Okay, so I have a couple of sources, not as good as yours, but a few of mine have told me that the NHL just wants Meruelo out. They don't want to deal with him. They are totally disappointed with the way things have been handled, especially playing in a 5,000-seat arena and then expecting to play there for 3 years while all of this was taking place. They just want it to go away so that Gary Bettman then can open up bids for an expansion team. Can you enlighten me and our listeners anything that you have heard as far as that aspect of the deal is concerned?
Well, neither Gary Bettman or Bill Daly has said that to me expressly, but it would not surprise me in the least if they just wanted to extricate themselves from this situation. I mean, when you look at what's happened with Utah, Ryan Smith wasn't ready to take an NHL team yet, and you can see it right now with all the things that are a little behind planning. He wanted an expansion franchise, and he wanted the runway to prepare for that franchise. Mm-hmm. He wasn't given it, and that tells you how bad the situation was here. And as Gary Bettman said at that news conference, you know, they were okay with the mullet timeline as long as they thought they had a real option. Tempe, of course, was the option that everyone thought was going to play out. It didn't. But even after that, Gary said there were more options. But when he looked Alex Meruelo in the eye and said, can you really tell me that this is only going to be a 3-year construction timeline? Alex couldn't tell him that. So then you're talking about, 6-7 years at Mullet Arena. Sure. With the 4,600 seats and the loss of revenue, that's impacting league revenues. It's impacting player salaries. That was a step that the NHL was not willing to take.
Well, and here's the other question too: if the Coyotes Alex Meruelo felt he was in the right, that he's got a strong case against the state land trust, why wouldn't he use a Craig Morgan or other media outlets or whatever to get his message across, or bang the drum slowly saying they are wrong, we want to be here? You know what I mean? Why wouldn't they just, holler from the bell tower, if you will? They've been extremely quiet, and this half-assed statement they had doesn't make sense on top of it.
Well, like I said earlier, I think this is just reactionary. I don't know the law well enough to know if they have an actual case, but this felt reactionary and angry more than anything else. It's easy to threaten legal action, and they didn't even do that overtly. They said they were going to explore all their legal options. It's easy to say that, but when it comes time to actually do it, and do you actually have a case, I'm not sure that they would. That would be for someone smarter than me to figure out. But yeah, the release itself it just wasn't well conceived, guys. Like I said, it was just reactionary and emotional.
So now what? Where are we at, Craig?
Look into your crystal ball, Craig. What do we got?
Well, that's the question, right? Does he continue to pursue this? I guess there's an outside chance if you pursue the special use permit and you try and, which of course means another minimum listing of 10 weeks, between that and the acquisition of the permit, I mean, we're talking close to another year, guys, sure, before we could be talking about this issue again. And then you shorten your timeline for construction. Bill Daly said in that story that I wrote off the news conference when they announced the sale, they really have 3.5 years. They have to reactivate the franchise by the end of 2027. And by that point, they have to have the arena 50% constructed. So if you remove a year from that timeline, you're talking about 2.5 years to be able to get this done. I don't know. That's an awfully tight timeline, and you're assuming there won't be any more setbacks or roadblocks along the way. The only other thing that I could think of is the option that so many of us have been talking about for so long. Go back to the folks at the Salt River Pima Maricopa Indian community and say, hey, is there any chance with this plot of land that's available, that's already zoned? It's a quick construction timeline of about 2 years. There were issues there, of course. He couldn't build a sports book. He couldn't build residences, which were a big part of his revenue model. I don't know if there are other options there, but I mean, Alex Meruelo is quickly running out of any options at all. I'm not even sure if they're going to move forward with it at this point.
I just think he should take his $1 billion and get out, to be honest with you. But that's my opinion. So I will follow that statement up with this, Craig. In your wildest imagination, do you believe that if Meruelo skates, sorry, I couldn't pass up the pun, if he skates town, will there be somebody else who would come in within a 5-year period?
I do think you will see other groups interested. In fact, I know there are other groups interested because I've spoken to them.
Okay.
Now, how serious are they? That we never know. Like, we've been sold the bill of goods on a couple of ownership groups in the past, and when it came down to it, you realize maybe they didn't have the right stuff to get this all done. Any group that comes in has the same issues that previous groups had. They still have to get an arena built, and in this political climate, in this state, if you're looking for any kind of tax abatements or subsidies to help you out, good luck, because there's just no political will for it. So it's a tall task. Do I think the NHL wants to come back here? Yes. Do I think eventually Phoenix will have NHL hockey back again yet? But I don't really believe that 5-year timeline. I think that's a pipe dream to think it could come back that quickly. When you look at the history of teams that have left markets and then the market gets a team back, the fastest it's ever happened is Minnesota, which took 7 years, and they're called the state of hockey. This is not the same type of market. There's not the same appetite for hockey, although it's a much larger market, so they've got that going for them. I just, with all the processes at play here and the need for an arena, I have a hard time believing NHL hockey will be back anytime soon.
Thank you, my brother. Great insight. We always appreciate you on the show. Have a great day.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate you having me.
There you go. That is Craig Morgan, PHNX, dialed in to everything on the Coyotes and broke the story on Friday. And he has been presented by the CAZ Sportsbook right here at Casino Arizona. In fact, tonight, Game 7. Show up. Have a great time. You can watch the game on all of the big screens. You can wager on the game. You can have libations and great food also at the CAZ Sports Bar. It's all available here at Casino Arizona. 3 live betting windows, 6 self-service kiosks, and they are open from 8 in the morning until 11. It is indeed the CAZ Sportsbook here at Casino Arizona. When we come back, we're going to have a little NBA.